can't sit back, relax, and watch people suffer.
It is important for girls' voices to be heard.
The Yap.
Yap. Yapping with the Yap.
Yapper avec le Yap.
Yapper avec le Yap. Yappen met de Yap.
Met de Yap.
Yapping with the Yap.
Hallo, ik ben Sarah, een van de jongeren van Plan International België. We zijn allemaal tussen de 15 en 24 jaar oud en vinden het belangrijk om op te komen voor meisjesrechten wereldwijd. Hier, in onze eigen podcast, praten we met andere jongeren, zoals jij en ik, over de impact van humanitaire crisissen op het leven van meisjes. Laten we duidelijk zijn, we zijn geen experts. We zijn gewoon jongeren die zich zorgen maken over deze thema's. En we willen het woord geven aan andere jongeren om hun ervaringen en hun meningen te horen. Dus luister mee om te ontdekken en te leren en een stem te geven aan zij die gehoord moeten worden. Daarvoor geef ik nu het woord aan Jan.
Thank you. Today we will be talking about a topic that affects us all, but far too many world leaders dispute it or minimize it for economic gain, global warming. Young people are suffering more and more from climate anxiety. When you watch the news, you can regularly see massive floods hitting various places around the world. For instance, Polonia a few years ago, Spain more recently, as well as the Philippines, where 9 million people were displaced. These are just a few examples of how the climate crisis is already impacting our lives with terrible consequences. But how does it affect girls, particularly? And which challenges does the climate crisis represent for them in countries like Nigeria, where the consequences are very severe? Joining us today are two incredible guests with a unique perspective on the topic, Fatima and Halima. Hello girls, hello Fatima and Halima. Well, first of all, can you tell us a bit about yourself? What brought you here today?
I'm Halima from the northeastern part of Nigeria, Maiduguri, Borno State in particular. I'm a gender equality advocate, a peace-building champion, and also a youth ambassador for Plan International Nigeria, and a co-researcher for the research we conducted recently, the gendered impact of climate change on younger adolescent girls. Why I am here today, we are here to address the issues affecting young people that we've discovered during our research, to voice out their voices and their voices to be heard.
And I'm Fatima, also from northeastern Nigeria. I am more of a climate advocate, a gender equality advocate, and also a peace-building activist. I'm also one of the co-researchers for the gendered impact of climate change on the Sahel region, particularly how it impacts the adolescent girls.
Thank you, girls. And maybe as we start, a lot of people throw the term climate crisis around all the time, but what does it actually mean and what it does look like in Nigeria?
Climate crisis may not necessarily have a single meaning, but for us, it's totally the crises that are related to climate. Some of them are not climate-based crises, but they are later or they are at the beginning influenced by climate, and that's why they are termed climate crisis. So how it impacts Nigeria is quite different from how it impacts several places, but then it's quite similar to how it impacts other countries in the Sahel region. The impact of climate change is not evenly shared or felt in Nigeria as well, because it has more impact on the adolescent girls compared to any other category of people.
When does these changes started happening? You said that it was different throughout the countries and that it was different impact. When the changes started, did you realize at first that it was connected to climate crisis?
So it was a later realization. It wasn't something that just happened and we said, okay, this is climate. So it has to take us a lot of time. I think for me, most of the problems we've seen recently is what opened my eyes to the realities of climate change. So the impact of climate change is not easily identified as of years ago, but now it is more clear and it is more observable. As such, we realize it in the later time.
And you talked about your perspective. How do you have any example on how it affected your life specifically? Like on food, education, anything?
It's quite a reality for me. Earlier this year, or maybe late this year, as of September 2024, there was a flooding in the community where I come from. That's the city where I come from, Maiduguri particularly. And that flood was severe that it's made so many people flee their homes, and we lost so many lives. And as an individual, I wasn't directly affected, but due to the impact it has on communities nearby and to the realities I could see and how my community became divided from several communities, I think that was a severe impact on my own mental health. And then to the communities or to the people around, it has serious impact on their dignity and safety as well, because so many people were trapped in locations where they cannot access basic necessities like sanitation, medications, and a whole lot. So it was exposing people to a lot of risks, both mentally, emotionally, and also physically.
The climate change has affected the farmlands in terms of droughts, low water, low rainfall, and also all that. So with that, there is the low food in the community where girls find it difficult to eat and then go to school. It affects their education, which mostly they are being married off due to economic opportunities.
So you just started talking about how it affects girls particularly. I mean, of course, it's also what we want to highlight here and talk about girls in climate crisis and dive into that conversation. So you started talking about it a little bit, but what specific challenges do girls face with climate crisis, and how does it make harder for them than it is for boys?
It affects mostly their education because they find it hard to have their own food to go to eat and then go to school. They have to go fetch water from a longer distance to come back. Before they come back, time has already gone. And sometimes they don't have food to eat. And also their economic opportunities has also reduced. So with that, they have been married off at early age because of the responsibilities their parents seems to see very difficult to take care of themselves. And also they are being exposed to gender-based violence in terms of going to the forest, maybe to bring firewood, to go to fetch water in search of food, and some other looking for economic opportunities to cater for their families and others. So I think boys are less risk than girls because girls are being more exposed and they are more vulnerable in the community.
Well, thank you very much for this input. I mean, you have done a huge work with Plan International by gathering the testimonies of girls living through climate crisis and explaining the consequences on their daily lives. Can you tell us a little bit more about the report? How does it started? Why did you started it? And what did you find most important to share or exciting?
So the report actually highlights so many stories of girls, their lived realities of hardship and a whole lot. So one of the key findings from the report is the fact that girls are made responsible for feeding and also for providing basic amenities for not just themselves but then their families. That is one. Another key finding we got from the report, or another key insight from the report, is the fact that most of the challenges they face as a community is as a result of climate change. So each of the economic hardship, each of the insecurity, each of the health, each of the educational problems are one way or the other as a result of climate change. And that was clearly stated in the reports. Another key insight for me, or another key surprising factor I got from the reports, is the fact that girls are not only affected by the climate change, but they have so much of resilience. After being affected, at some points, they become the providers for their family, regardless. So it's more of a report that is showing the negative aspect of climate change and also showing the hardships, but as well as the resilience of those communities through the adolescent girls. So the report clearly highlights the role we play and also the impacts climate change has on adolescent girls generally. So generally, what I would say the report is trying to tell the world is the fact that climate change as a problem has impacts not evenly shared to everyone, but then other people or other parts of the population have or feel more impact, while the other part feel less impact. In this case, I would say the adolescent girls feel more of the impact than the adolescent boys. One of the things Halima highlighted was the fact that they are exposed to risks of being violated sexually, and then one of the key risks is being abducted by armed groups or many more. So I just feel like the report is opening a door for us to look into people's realities.
You talked about resilience, which I think is something very important to focus on also. How have you personally built that resilience, and what helps you get up in the morning and do the research and be part of that conversation and all of the advocacy work that you do?
At first, looking at the community where I come from, a community that is affected with conflict, looking at the young people there, how they do engage in some kind of activities, all the young boys and girls. So with that, I've been able to look, Halima, these are young people coming up. They are the younger generations, and next they will be the one leading the community and all of that. So you have to do something. And with the support of my parents, of course, and the community where I come from, then I started doing kind of activities, creating awareness to those young people. With that, I've been able to overcome some kind of, challenges that I have personally and within the communities also. So, and also with the help of other organizations, with the help of the community leaders, I think young girls are now being an active members in the community to promote peace and conflict resolution within the community.
So the key inspiration for me to wake up in the morning, or the key motivation to act, is the fact that my own realities are not too positive. So my story has different stories in it. And as such, I feel like none of the stories that will come out of my story should have a negative impact. So I want to change not just my story, but then I want to write a new story for everyone. And I just know that I cannot do it alone, so I need to bring everybody on board. And doing that, it requires a lot of effort. It requires a lot of energy. It requires a lot of hard work. So I can't sit back, relax, and watch people suffer. I can't sit back, relax, and watch other girls face challenges I've faced as a child. Because from what the report is saying and from the realities we are seeing, if my own problems were at 60, then their problems should be at 120. So it's quite high, and there is no way I can sit back as the advocate I seem to be to let these problems continue to persist. I mean, it's not my responsibility to change the world, but it's our responsibility to change the world, because, it doesn't belong to me. We all have the same world. We all have the same planet. So I feel like I need to tell the world that we need to act upon these problems.
You talked a lot about advocacy and community, obviously, and you done an incredible work with the report. Obviously, it's something that you care about and work on. And environmental and climate issues rank as the third biggest concern for girls. So why do you think it's so important for girls' voices to be heard on these issues? Obviously, you are example of girls advocate on this topic. But why do you think it's so important to hear even more voices and diverse voices, girls' voices?
As for me, I think it is more important, for girls and girls' voices to be heard to bridge the intergenerational gap that is between the older generations and also the younger generations that we have. And also in terms of advocating for themselves, empowering other young people to stand on themselves. They don't have to go and look for something that will be exposing them to gender-based violence and other stuff. So I feel like this is very important for them to be empowered, to be given the opportunities for them to be in spaces of decision making, to voice out what is really affecting them, to address those issues, at higher level, at maybe locally, national, regional, and also internationally. And also their voices to be also heard effectively and work upon.
Environmental problems is ranked to be the third biggest concern for girls. I mean, that makes it very important for girls' voices to be heard.
Absolutely.
In the community where I come from, or in Nigeria in particular, the northern part of Nigeria has the most spoken language called Hausa. And then in Hausa, there is a proverb that is usually used, or should I say an adage that says, "Me ɗaki shi ya san inda yake maryoyo," meaning the owner of the room knows where it leaks. I mean, if the roof is leaking, then the owner of the room should know. So here, since the problem is ranked to be one of the highest, then the people facing these challenges know it's better. So it is very important for the world to listen to the girls, for their voices to be heard, because the problem is theirs, it concerns them, and they should be part of the solution. So if I know what exactly my problem is, I should also be the one to tell you how to solve the problem, because I know myself better, and so shall it be for climate change.
Absolutely. And you talked about empowering girls empower girls, which is obviously something very important to highlight. I just wanted to go back a little bit in your own work and in your own story. How did you start it as advocate in Nigeria?
Well, so this is a critical question for me, because I started from one activism to the other, so it has been a long journey. And how I started, it all begins on International Children's Day. That was in 2018, so 5 years ago. And what happened was that I woke up to the reality of my community that girls are supposed to be mothers. Girls are not supposed to do anything out of the house. So the life of a girl should just end in the kitchen and in the bedroom. That was what I woke up to on that very day. And I was like, okay, this is a lie. There's definitely a missing link between the cultural perspective that brought about this saying and any other perspective. So whoever believes or whoever thinks a girl is supposed to be married off to give birth to children and to take care of the house, the person is getting the whole concept wrong. I don't know the concept, but I just believe that concept is not correct. So I wanted to identify the missing link, and that was where it started. From the moment I realized there was this missing link, that was how I started speaking. So it all started from a radio program to a TV show and to the community activism to becoming a national voice, to going out of my own comfort zone, to going to places that I shouldn't go on a normal day, to going to the hard-to-reach communities, to at least tell them that I am a girl and I don't believe in the fact that a girl's life should end in the kitchen.
Well,
That's how it started.
Very inspiring.
Yeah.
What inspired you to take action, Halima?
For me, it started in my community. At first, girls are being married off early in my community. Girls are not going to school because I would say mostly 70 to 80% of girls are not going to school in my community as of then. And young people are not being part of decision-making processes within the community, and a lot more is happening. Little conflicts, peer group clashes with young people from these neighboring communities and this community. So it's been a chaos. At first, there are some like-minded individuals in the community. We come together. So this is what is happening. Why can't we just come together, find solutions to these problems that we are facing in the community? So we've started creating awareness, giving sensitization to parents within the community, and later on Plan International came in, build our capacity, how we are going to advocate for these changes to be in our community, how they build our capacity also in different aspects. So with that, we've been championing a lot of activities within the community, and most of us are peace-building champions, gender equality advocates, and also the youth ambassadors for Plan International. So we met our community leaders telling them that this is what we want, these activities should be, how young people should be in decision-making processes, how our voices need to be heard because we are also part of the community and also the coming generation.
How can the youth here in Belgium and elsewhere, how can they make a difference?
This is like a call to action for me. So the question is a bit powerful and I feel like I need to share this. The impact we're making or what we're doing as young people is beyond a personal thing. So the problems in our communities and the problems affecting each and every one of us globally is beyond a one-person thing. Climate change in particular or climate crisis in particular is a very, very complex thing to deal with. As such, it needs all of us. It needs an inclusive approach to prevent it and also mitigate its impact. So what young people around the world can do, or what young people in Belgium can do, is to champion the cause of this change, is to come together to advocate for climate-responsive actions. Let's take responsibility and ownership of our world. If we don't want climate change to take all of us out of the only planet we have, then we need to collectively put things together. It did not start in one place. Climate change has a widespread across the globe. We don't know where it all started. I mean, some people do, but then we don't know. And we don't know how it will end. But one thing we know is if we neglect the fact that climate change is real and climate crises are real, then it will affect each and every one of us.
Well, thank you for that. It was very powerful. I have one last question because sometimes thinking about climate change can be overwhelming. So I wanted to finish off and asking you, what are your hopes for the future?
Like, my hope for the future is I want a world where each girl is free from gender-based violence, have voices to be heard in decision-making processes related to climate change and also the issues that affect them. And also I wanted a world where everybody would take ownership because, as Fatima has mentioned, climate change is not one person's responsibility. It's all our own responsibility, and we have to come together to prevent and mitigate climate change within our communities, our countries, and continents, of course.
Girls, it's been a very important, I think, conversation and very insightful conversation. Thank you for your work and thank you for sharing it with us today. Thank you for sharing your personal experience as well. We've been delighted to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jean, Halima en Fatima hebben gesproken over hoe de klimaatcrisis het leven van meisjes in Nigeria beïnvloedt. Ze zijn activisten, net zoals wij, en hebben onderzoek gevoerd naar de impact van klimaatcrisis op het leven van meisjes. Daaruit is gebleken dat meisjes het meest getroffen zijn door de klimaatcrisis in Nigeria. Ze gaan minder naar school omdat ze verantwoordelijk worden voor hun familie en het zoeken naar eten. Die zoektocht is moeilijk, omdat er niet zoveel eten is. En die brengt hen in contact met gendergerelateerd geweld en zelfs ontvoeringen. Alle verhalen uit het onderzoek zijn echte verhalen van echte meisjes. Maar Halima en Fatima hebben ook hoop. Ze zeggen dat meisjes een enorm doorzettingsvermogen hebben. En dat jij als Belgische jongere ook verandering kunt brengen door te luisteren naar deze meisjes. Wij zijn de nieuwe generatie en als iedereen zijn verantwoordelijkheid opneemt, kunnen we van de wereld een betere plek maken. Hiermee zijn we aan het einde gekomen van de aflevering over de uitdagingen van meisjes in een klimaatcrisis. Hoe kun jij als luisteraar deze meisjes in crisis steunen? Volg onze podcast om meer getuigenissen te horen. En deel alle afleveringen met zoveel mogelijk mensen. Elke actie telt. Samen kunnen wij de rechten van meisjes over de hele wereld verdedigen.